Long before the discovery of fire, humanity lived in a world far more perilous than we can imagine today. The Stone Age was not only a time of raw survival, it was an era where every dawn and dusk marked the thin line between life and death. Fire, that single element that would one day define human civilization, was still unknown. Yet even without it, our ancestors managed to endure, protect their young, and pass on the flame of life through sheer instinct, resilience, and unity. In the heart of prehistory, early humans, our ancestors, Homo habilis and later Homo erectus, roamed across Africa's vast plains, dense forests, and rocky shelters. Nights were their greatest enemies. Without fire, there was no warmth, no light, and no safety. The cold crept into their bones, and predators owned the darkness. Lions, saber-toothed cats, and hyenas prowled unseen, their eyes gleaming in the shadows. For a mother clutching her infant, the cry of a child at night could mean death, a signal to lurking predators that something vulnerable lay nearby. Survival depended on instinct and cooperation. Families formed tight-knit groups, tribes, though primitive in structure, where every member had a role. The men, strong and alert, guarded the perimeters of their makeshift shelters. Women, resourceful and attentive, kept the young close, crafting crude coverings from leaves and animal hides. They relied on stone tools, sharpened rocks for cutting meat, sticks hardened in the sun for defense. Every tool was a step toward progress, every survival another chance for humankind to learn. Without fire, warmth came from bodies huddled together. In cold nights, families gathered inside caves or under thick foliage, pressing close to preserve heat. Parents shielded children with their arms and skins of animals, keeping them alive through storms and chill winds. Their shelters were humble, branches, stones, and mud forming fragile barriers against the elements, but they symbolized something deeply human, the instinct to protect. Food was another challenge. Fireless humans could not cook meat, so they scavenged raw carcasses left behind by predators. Mothers fed their young with fruits, roots, and marrow sucked from bones cracked open with stones. They learned which plants were safe and which brought sickness or death. The knowledge of the land was their survival code, passed from one generation to the next in gestures, grunts, and signs long before words existed. Danger, however, was constant. The night was not only cold, it was alive. The sound of rustling leaves could send waves of panic through the group. Children were the most vulnerable, their cries could betray the tribe's hiding place. So mothers often kept them silent with rhythmic motions, rocking them gently or humming low vibrations that mimicked the heartbeat. This was not just comfort, it was survival through silence. During daylight, the tribe moved as a unit. The men tracked game and watched the horizon for threats. The women carried the infants on their backs, balanced bundles of gathered plants, and foraged along the route. Older children walked close to adults, learning through observation. They mimicked hunting postures, tested small stones, and helped gather food. Even at a young age, they were part of the tribe's rhythm, learning the skills that would one day determine their survival. Then came the rain, another merciless test. Without fire, they could not dry their skins or warm their trembling bodies. Thunder terrified them, lightning split the skies like a god's fury. But sometimes, from that very lightning, something miraculous happened. A tree would burn. Flames would dance. And though the fire scared them at first, it also fascinated them. They watched from afar, their wide eyes reflecting the orange glow. It was their first glimpse of power, light conquering darkness, heat defying cold. In those early years before humanity learned to tame fire, they revered it from a distance. Some historians believe that early humans guarded naturally burning fires for as long as they could, feeding them with dry grass and sticks, terrified of losing them. Others think they only dared approach after the flames died, scavenging charred bones and roasted carcasses, realizing for the first time that cooked meat was softer, easier to eat, and more nourishing. But before they harnessed that magic, life was brutal and unforgiving. Each day demanded strength, intelligence, and an unbreakable will to live. The young were the tribe's hope, and protecting them meant protecting the future. So every decision, where to camp, when to move, what to hunt, was made with the children in mind. Humanity's progress was born not from comfort, but from crisis. The desire to shield their young from cold and danger drove humans to innovate. Stones became sharper, shelters became sturdier. They began to understand patterns of nature, where predators hunted, when fruits ripened, how the stars moved across the sky. Each discovery was a small spark of understanding that one day would ignite into fire, language, and civilization. The day humans learned to control fire changed everything. It turned fear into power, darkness into safety. But before that miracle, generations had already survived unimaginable trials. They had learned to rely on one another, to love fiercely, and to endure without light. They had learned to protect their young not with tools or flames, but with instinct, courage, and sacrifice. In the long night before fire, humanity was fragile, but never defeated. The flames that would later define civilization were already alive, burning invisibly in their hearts. They didn't yet know how to make fire, but they carried within them something far more enduring, the will to protect, to nurture, and to survive. It was this will, the unspoken promise between parent and child, that carried humankind through the cold ages. And when the first flame finally flickered in human hands, it wasn't just a discovery. It was a triumph of love over fear, of perseverance over extinction. Life before fire reminds us that before humanity conquered nature, it first conquered despair. In the shadows of prehistory, under starlit skies, men and women without fire still found ways to keep the light alive, not through flame, but through faith in the generations yet to come.